this computer.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of our Ensign Peak podcast. I'm joined today. Oh, I'm Skylar Bates, by the way. I'm new to the podcast. I'm joined by Miss Laura Waite and Miss Naomi Jensen and Mr. Jansen Smurthwaite. And today we'll be covering um, study skills and how to prepare for college and kind of things like that. So, to get started, did any of you want to say anything, kind of opening remarks? Nothing. Okay. Um, so on the subject of college, uh, kind of what's your thoughts on, applying for college, or how did you, know you want to go to college, for any of you that are going to or have been?
So I can start. For me, I started applying probably later than I should have. I had to rush a little bit to get the BYU application in. I only applied to two colleges. I applied to BYU and then BYUI. Um, and I got accepted to both. The BYUI application was a lot easier. You didn't have to do any essays. Um, but in the end, I chose BYU Idaho because for a few different reasons. I liked the smaller class size. Um, I liked where it was. It's pretty close to home. I liked and just the general feel and all this stuff they have there. My older sister went there as well, and she had a great experience. Um, so that's how I chose to, and I'm going there in the fall. So that's how I chose to go to college, and my experience on that.
Yeah. And so, what are you majoring in? Anything specific?
Not yet. I'm gonna start with like an uh, accounting major, so I can have something I'm working on to fall back on, in case, whatever I want to do doesn't really pan out.
Okay, yeah. No, that makes sense. Naomi, are you going to college, if I remember right?
Yes, my plan is to go to college. I've been taking the dual credit program through Ensign Peak Academy that we have with BYU Idaho. So I've applied and been accepted there, and I've applied and been accepted to Provo as well. I started my application for Southern Virginia University as well. I haven't finished that yet because I'm pretty much settled on going to Provo. Um, when it comes to choosing a major, I haven't gone very far, because I plan to serve a mission beforehand. But that's something I super appreciate about all three of the schools that I've applied to is that they're super great about a mission deferment, and even um they all also offer scholarships for serving missions as well. So that's a big point of advice I have is look up those scholarships because, whatever you already have planned into your life, they probably already have scholarships. Um, and yeah, once again, I haven't really looked into majors. I'm hoping to consider something in maybe nutrition or physical education, perhaps because it is something I can see myself using regardless of where I end up, after I finish college. So
Okay, that's a super cool major. I like that. Miss Wait, did you go to college?
Yes, I went to college right out of high school. I went to Rick's College, which is BYU Idaho before it was BYU Idaho. And I got my associates there. That at that time it was only a 2-year college. And then I got married. And I always knew I wanted to go back to school, but my husband was going to school and it seemed more important for him to finish school. We're starting our family and he needed to, support us. So 20 years later, I went back to school and I got my bachelor's degree online from Grand Canyon University. So that was a fabulous introduction to online school and loved that platform. And yeah, I sometimes think about going back to get my master's, and then I think, I don't know if I want to or not. But I love school. I love learning. I loved college. My time at college is the only part of my life that I would do again. It was that much fun.
Okay. That's
So
so
I would
cool.
encourage everybody to go to college. It's just such a
What
great
did you
experience.
what did you major in
I
college?
majored in English as a young person, but I didn't know I wanted to teach until I went back. So when I went back, I majored in education.
That's really cool. Um, so do any of you have any kind of tips for, filling out a college application or that kind of a thing?
My first thought is start as early as possible because it sounds super intimidating, especially, in your sophomore or junior years when you're first starting, you're being expected to start looking for your options and things. It sounds super intimidating, but once you just look onto the website and look at like the steps. I mean, I know Provo was super helpful and it gave me a whole tracker. Like I was able to check off boxes, which for me made it super easy. I knew what steps I needed to take. And because it often takes a little bit of time for your transcript to come in and for it to be submitted, just yeah, start as early as you can. And it's not that scary once you really get into it.
Good advice. Hmm.
And how long does each application take roughly, do you think?
I think it
Um,
depends on. Oh, no, you go ahead, Naomi.
oh, sorry. Yeah, no. For me, it only took me like I think a collective maybe 2 or 3 hours. It was spread up across a couple of months, but I mean for every person it's different. Some sections take longer
Okay, and was that for each application individually or for all of them as a whole?
for each one individually.
Okay, 2 to 3 hours. So like a reasonable length of time, but nothing over the top, I guess. Um, so was there anything you wish you did different kind of during the process of filling out your application?
For me or for Jansen.
Either one, whoever wants to answer.
I mean, for me personally, like I said, just starting early, that's the biggest thing.
Okay, yeah. So, just a second. Um, sorry, my computer's being weird. So Jensen, for your applications, was the process difficult at all? Like, or did you kind of just go through it pretty easy?
Um, BYUI was very simple. Um, you had, if I remember, you had a few documents you had to write. You didn't really have to write at all. There weren't essays to write. You can correct me, Naomi, if I'm wrong. But that one was very easy. That was like a sit down and then we're done. Um, BYU was harder because there was like eight or so, maybe 6 to 8 different little essays that you had to write, and so I had to take some time on those. Um, I think it was harder because there was a lot more required. I had to go get um, two different letters of recommendation, and that took a while, just sending out the thing and then waiting for them to respond. Um, but once they did, it all came together. And like Naomi said, there was like a little tracker thing, that was really helpful, knowing exactly what I needed to do. Um, and so overall, I think it's very doable. Of course, they design the application so that college students and high school students can do it easily, but still give what they need.
Okay, yeah, that's really cool. Um, so is there any suggestions that you would make for prepping for college, Jansen?
Um, you need to get, housing, look up your classes, all those things that you'll need. But then also like knowing how to do laundry and knowing, certain meals you need to cook. Um, I'm sure this is way if you've sent any of your kids to college that you want to prep them so they can handle themselves just with life, as they're, going to school. Um, so I think it's important to consider what am I going to need at college, as well as what am I going to need to be able to do. So, um, knowing how to, change a tire, um, laundry, food, all those kind of basic things that you may take for granted or you may rely on your parents for. Make sure you know and you're confident in all of those things, so that you're not constantly like, how do I da 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 da, every other day.
And if I can add
It's
one
really
thing to
cool.
that, I think learning to advocate for yourself is so important. Learning to be able to go see a teacher and say, hey, I'm having a problem with this, or being able to make your own doctor's appointment. And, if you need to go to the doctor, or things like that, it's really important that you're able to advocate for yourself and make sure that you're getting the help and the attention and the time that you need from your instructors and those around you.
That's really cool. I don't know that I really would have ever thought about that maybe at all, or maybe even right up until maybe I was going to college. That like there's a lot of other skills that you need to just live at a college as opposed to just go to classes, do the homework. Like
Yeah.
it's more than that. You have to be able to kind of survive. This is really cool, guys, because I didn't really know any of this stuff. So, I think out of all the people who should have been leading a discussion like this, I don't know that I'm the best one. So, um, we're also supposed to talk about, uh, you know, studying. And so I have a couple of questions for you, Miss Waite. And so the first question I'd like to ask is, what do you think the best way to set a good study schedule is, whether for high school or for college?
I think the best idea is to use your planner. We printed out, we didn't print them out, but we digitally sent everybody a planner this year. And if you think you've lost it, you can find it in the discussion section of the Student and Parent Center. It's there for you. I put it there for you. And so it's a really good tool. Any tool is good, but if you don't like the digital planner, having a paper planner is good. I think the way Ensign Peak is set up is fabulous, that we have classes mostly on Tuesday and Thursday. There's some classes on Wednesdays, but mostly they're on Tuesday and Thursday. And that gives you an opportunity on Wednesday to do all of your assignments from Tuesday's class. You can even like keep the same schedule. You have literature at 10 a.m. on Tuesday, then on Wednesday at 10 a.m. you can do your literature assignments, and then on Thursday you have writing at 11, and then on Friday you can do your writing assignments at 11 o'clock. I think that's a great system. And then on Monday, all you have to do is make sure everything's done, or do anything that didn't quite get done, and then you're ready for the week and nothing's late and you're ready to go.
Yeah,
Those are my
that's
suggestions.
super smart. Um, so how would you recommend for studying for finals in just Ensign Peak or college in general?
I think the best way to study for finals is to do all of your work throughout the year. It's better to know the material than to try and just know the answers. Because if you know the material, the answers are going to make sense and you're going to know what they are. And it's also better to sleep than to cram. So, um, a good strategy is to review information and then see if you can remember it without looking at it, and then practice any missed questions that you're going over, and then check what you've missed and then repeat. So you review, you recall, you practice, and you do that throughout the whole year. And then when it comes time for finals, all you do is review again, and hopefully you've done all of your work and it's already in your brain. You just got to remember what it is, and then get a good night's rest the night before your final so that your brain can remember all the things that it's learned.
That's really cool. Thank you. Like, I definitely think it's super important to remember not to try and cram everything. I know I tried
Yeah.
to do that several times and it's just not worth it. Naomi, Jansen, do either of you have anything to add to that?
I actually, I when I first started doing classes through EPA, we didn't have essay portions. And now that we have essay portions, something that I found super helpful was at the beginning of the year, you go, because this is available all year long, you go and you look up what topics your essays are going to be about. And you write them down somewhere, or you keep note in your brain, or however you need to do it. And then when those lessons roll around, you put an extra emphasis on those lessons. You just make sure you remember key points. Some points of the year it just gets rougher, it's harder to keep track of lessons, and that that that's fair enough. But sometimes it's just helpful to take extra note. And if you already during the year, like Miss Wade was saying, is if you're already keeping on top of your assignments as best as possible, and you just put a little bit of that emphasis where you know it'll be needed later. It's great that you can look through the modules all year long. You can look ahead and as much as you want, and you'll be prepared when that time rolls around.
That's really good advice, Naomi.
Yeah, I really like that. Do you have anything to add to that, Jansen?
Um, I agree with Mrs. Waite on doing the Tuesday's work Wednesday, Thursday's work Friday, because for two reasons. One, it's very efficient. You know, you're getting it done, keeps you a little ahead, because things are always going to come up, you know. I think it thought I was doing balloons and I'm not. Um, and then Naomi, I haven't even thought of that, because I was at EPA as well before essay questions. I remember how like short it was and how simple, but this was having essay questions really helps us um, think about the material ourselves, learning how to more apply it. And I haven't even thought of doing of reviewing it at the beginning of the semester or at the beginning of the year. That's super smart. So um, I just say I agree with what's been said.
Okay. And so do any of you have any suggestions maybe on like your personal studies for Ensign Peak? How like the most, I guess, efficient way to get the most knowledge out of that without spending an absurd amount of time on it? I mean, that's a question I myself have, just because I myself, I'm like, how do I get this done in a timely manner without like either just like not remembering anything I just read or spending, an hour and a half, 2 hours on my personal studies.
I think there's a balance because you can, in the interest of wanting to learn and wanting to do well, you can spend just ridiculous amounts of time, and that's cool, and you learn. But at the same time, you need to focus on what the point is. So don't go explain the whole video when they have just a specific question. But at the same time, don't try to skip around finding the answer to that question without watching the video. So I think my advice to learn, but then also to be efficient, um, is to focus. Take your if you're finding like, oh, I am just slow and unfocused and it's already been half an hour, get up, go do something. Um, and a lot of people think, oh, I don't need that, I can do it or whatever, but it really helps. It's really helped me. And so, if you're unfocused, get up and go do something, come back more focused. So then really focus on that video or read that article and internalize it and think about it later. If you're learning about something in physics and then you think about, oh, my TV screen is because of those electromagnetic waves. That's what we're learning about right now in physics. Um, make sure you can focus so that you remember. Don't keep trudging through um, when you're not receiving the information. That way you can learn and still be efficient.
That's really good. Miss Waite, Naomi, do either of you have anything to add to that?
I think making sure you understand the instructions the note-taking assignments when you are going through before you open the article, make sure you understand what's expected of you. Are you making an outline? Are you using a graphic organizer to help you organize your thoughts? What is it that you are supposed to be doing? And then make sure you understand the instructions there.
Okay. Is there anything you'd like to add to that, Naomi?
Yeah, I mean, I actually haven't done an EPA personal study in a while just because I've mostly been moving over to the dual credit program. But I I know that a lot of times whenever, like Jansen was saying, sometimes you gotta get up and move around, do something else. I know that I figured, like when I was reading an article or whatever else and I was falling asleep, I seriously just needed to take a nap. Like I seriously needed to take a 10 to 15 to 20-minute nap. And anything longer I would wake up too tired still. But if I just took a really quick nap and then came back to it immediately, then I would do just fine. Another thing I did with studying is if anyone's familiar with the Pomeretto timers, those are super helpful because we lose focus. We all lose focus. Some of us more easily than others, but we all lose focus. And we don't need, it might only take 30 minutes for us to lose focus. We don't need a full 30 minutes to regain that focus. So you take 30 minutes and then you take 5 minutes off and then you go 30 minutes. And I found myself to be super effective that way. I know that has worked for other people that I know, and it takes some time sometimes to figure out what study methods work for you. But I mean, never get discouraged because I know it's discouraging when you're like, oh, this study method worked for someone, like it should work for me, and then it doesn't work for you. That happens a lot. I also just know that it's good to write what you know beforehand. Like just kind of write down what you know about the personal study question beforehand. And then when you're going through the video, if it's information you already know, then you just focus on the information you don't know yet. I know it makes me faster to just, I already know that and keep moving. It's good to review, but then you keep moving and then you focus on the stuff you didn't know. You write down the stuff you didn't know while you're watching the video or reading the article. And so yeah, I guess this just comes down to figure out your study method, figure out what works for you, because it's always going to be different.
Yeah, that's really cool. I really like that. Um, another question that I think I have is, any of you have suggestions for someone maybe that has late assignments? They're really bogged down with all these assignments and they're struggling to get, caught up or ahead or whatever.
My first suggestion is to work backwards, kind of. In the subjects that I teach, we have a lot of units. Number one, in literature, you have a whole book that you're reading, and in writing, a lot of times we'll have a unit, where we're building an essay. So it's a great idea to work backwards, except that you've got to go to the beginning of a unit or the beginning of a book if you're in literature, or if you're in writing. But I find that that's helpful because that information is freshest in your mind. And Nick, do the assignment. Stay caught up with where you are. So if it's lesson 11, do lesson 11 and then go backwards to the assignment that you're missing. But don't get further behind by trying to get caught up. Does that make sense? Stay caught up with the lesson that's current. So and even with literature, um, if you're in the middle of a book, I still feel like usually we discuss the books enough that you kind of have a clue as to what's going on. So go ahead and start on chapter 7 to stay caught up with that week and do, chapter 7 through 14 or whatever it is for that week, and then go back. But try and stay with the lesson that you're on and then go back and do other ones. And if you need academic coaching, I am here to help you. We can get you set up with a good coach to help you get caught up.
Thank you. Jansen, Naomi, do either of you have something to add to that?
I think in the times that I've been late, I, as kind of a last resort, I kind of put the quality kind of as a um second priority and put efficiency first. Because what can happen is when you want to do well and you want to do it to a fullest extent, but you're behind, you have other stuff to do, other things are coming up, and you just don't think you'd be able to do it 100% in that time, then 90% is still good. So in that last resort, when it's just too much, answer the question short. Don't make the assignment look professional and amazing. do it just enough and not too much, is probably the right approach when you're far behind.
Yeah. Done is better than perfect.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like
for
to think
sure.
you get more points for assignment that's turned in than for one that never does get turned in.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Naomi, you look like you have something you want to say.
I do. I really agree with Jansen there. Like it's really that 90%, even that like 80% is better than a non-existent potential like 100. Um, I know it's super discouraging, but at the end of the day, the important thing is that you're learning. And you can't be learning um if you're freaked out and stressed about going through the motions as fast as possible. And so once you get that out of the way, it's at that point it's okay that you've kind of not necessarily lost it, that you haven't, but that you haven't done your best so that you could get back to learning, right? You need to get those things out of the way at that point so that you are receiving the knowledge that you need to, that you can spend the time again on those assignments that will help you feel more fulfilled in your learning and make an impact again.
Yeah, and one thing I'd like to say is all of our teachers here at Ensign be pretty lenient. Like you're not gonna get expelled just because you did bad homework. So I can pretty much guarantee that, all the teachers would much rather you try and you get all of your homework done that you're late on, even if it's not quite as good as it usually is, then they would much rather you do that than just stay completely behind because that's not any better, I don't think.
And one more piece of
So,
advice is don't resort to AI to do your work for you. We'd still rather have your 80% than AI's over the top 150%. So,
for sure, never resort to AI. You're gonna get caught anyways. So, like, then there is the possibility of, I guess, getting
if
expelled
you
if
don't
you
stop.
start
Yeah.
using AI.
And
So,
it'll probably end up being more work working with the AI and then getting punished for using AI than just doing the assignment like normal.
Yeah.
oh yeah. So, is there anything else you'd like to add, either on the subject of going to college or studying, or anything else that you'd kind of like to have a discussion on?
I had one other idea for study skills, and that's body doubling. Have you ever heard of body doubling? This is a method where you get a friend or a sister or somebody to sit next to you while you're working, or you can do it through Zoom, or you can even do it through a phone call. So you just call up your friend and say, "Hey, I'm working on math. What are you working on?" And your friend's working on English, and you just work together. And that really helps your brain just stay focused. Your brain is like, "Oh, somebody else is working, so am I." And it just causes your brain to kind of get into gear. And you can, and then if you have a question about something, "Hey, what about this? I don't know how this works." And then they can help you with that. There's somebody right there to help you or discuss an idea if you want, or what's the best way to word this, how do I say this? There's somebody right there to help you with that, and then you get back to work. And it's a really good method, to just help you study. You don't have to do the same thing. You can be on different topics in different places. Or if maybe your mom is working on a project at the kitchen table, you can go sit by her and she's doing her thing and you're doing your thing, but your brain is like, "Oh, we're working right now. This is what we're doing. People in the room are working."
Hmm.
It's really
That was
interesting. I
handy.
never thought about that before. So I definitely think I'm gonna have to use that. And I now thinking about it, now that I'm thinking about like, oh wait, that's a real thing. Like when you are sitting next to someone, it does work.
Yeah.
Like I don't think I ever would have thought about it that way before, but I can attest to the fact that it actually does work. So what were you gonna say, Jansen?
I was just gonna agree that that's a really great idea. And I'd say as far you asked about just education kind of in general or college and studies, I think prioritizing because a lot of people kind of like they go through college, they live the college life and they party with their friends or whatever. Um, and they get bad grades and it just doesn't go well and all the potential, all the resources they were given and paid for kind of it kind of goes okay, but not as well as it could. So I'd say to always prioritize your education um, because it's gonna bless you more later in life than you think, oh, I don't want to do that assignment. But if you do that, you do well in the class, you keep moving on, you gain your degree, you get a better job, which ultimately leads to a better life, more money, usually. So prioritizing your education is super important.
And I like the way
Super
Jansen
powerful.
used the
Thank you.
word education. A lot of times we talk a lot about college, but there's so many tech schools and trade schools and places where you can go to just learn a skill. It doesn't have to be college necessarily, but increasing your education in something, whether that education is in a trade or a subject, it's good to just have a skill that you can use.
Hmm.
Yeah, I definitely think it's true. Do you have anything you'd like to add to that, Naomi?
Um, I agree with, kind of reconsidering your interpretation of education. I know the majority of my senior year, I've actually I've actually spent a lot more time working, and I just work in fast food. And that's been a part of my education because I hadn't worked in fast food before. And I'm learning things there, and I'm learning how to interact with customers and provide like a good customer experience. And just remember that if the goal is learning, that you will be blessed in your efforts. And I honestly I have a testimony of that because I know that the Lord wants us to learn as much as we can to fill our brain with as much knowledge as possible. I'd also say to just begin with the end in mind is something my dad says all the time. Um and I was thinking about, mentioning discouragement with falling behind on homework or being stressed or scared about starting college applications or anything that we've talked about today. Um you can find a lot of peace in beginning with the end in mind. Jansen was saying he's kind of come back to our banking, was it? You were talking about banking for your for school,
Yeah,
and
that's the fallback.
yeah, the fallback because that's at the end of the day that's the beginning with the end in mind. At the end of the day, that's something you can use. That's something that's helpful. Um, But that can apply to just an individual assignment, beginning with the end in mind. After this, I'll be done. Or after this, I'll know how mitosis works. So begin with the end in mind and remember your why. It's super important. And yeah, don't stop learning.
Thank you. I think that's super important to remember. I think that pretty much wraps up our discussion day, unless there's anything else any of you would like to add. No. Okay. Well, I guess thank you for everyone that is watching this. Uh, hopefully, hopefully there's going to be another episode of this podcast out next month as well. I think I'm going to be there for that one. So I'm grateful to all of you. You know, came and did this. So I know I was kind of like the last moment step in kind of a thing. But I really am glad that I was able to do this with all of you because this has been super enlightening for me. I know. So thank you, all of you. I think that pretty much wraps this up. You can stop recording now.
Okay, thank you.